Just sit back and relax as we are about to begin. This session is streamed on our Facebook and YouTube accounts. For more details on FIC, please check social media accounts on Facebook, www.facebook.com/filmindustryconferenceph, Twitter @FICPH1, and Instagram @filmindustryconferenceph. To register for FIC public sessions and master classes, visit our website at fdcp.ph/FIC. Film Industry Conference Online 2020 is presented by Film Development Council of the Philippines in partnership with Full Circle Lab, supported by International Film Commission partners, Korean Film Council, Singapore Film Commission, National Film Development Corporation Malaysia, and Film Philippines Office, with international partners Netflix, CFIC Lab, Locarno Open Doors, IFFR Pro Rotterdam Lab, Asian Shadows, and Raven Banner Entertainment, with local film festival partners Cine Kasimanwa Western Visayas Film Festival, Cine Filipino Film Festival, Cinemalaya Independent Film Festival, Pista ng Pelikulang Pilipino, and Q Cinema International Film Festival. Special thanks to Ortigas Cinemas. The Film Industry Conference, or FIC, first conducted by the Film Development Council of the Philippines in 2017, aims to bring together international experts and stakeholders to share and discuss the latest trends, opportunities, platforms, and cooperation that Filipino producers and filmmakers can explore for the development, production, and distribution of their projects with the intent of crossing beyond local borders. As the Film Industry Conference shifts to an online platform this 2020, the Film Development Council of the Philippines is conducting the Film Industry Conference Online 2020, featuring local and international partners with a goal to continue the synergy between international experts, professionals, and stakeholders even online. This will be a great opportunity to give a platform and discuss the best practices, challenges, opportunities, and new norms of the industry given the current situation in a global pandemic. One of the key strategies to championing and keeping the integrity of regional content is to also create funds that filmmakers can access regionally, with pioneer countries like Singapore and the Philippines creating regional funds and funding mechanisms to encourage regional co-productions with Southeast Asian filmmakers. Our moderator for this panel is a school teacher turned film producer. His filmmaking is shaped by his passion for socio-civic issues and the Philippine arts and literature. His films have traveled extensively to festivals in Cairo, Warsaw, Tokyo, Torino, and others. He was invited to the UNESCO International Meeting of Independent Producers, Rotterdam Lab, Berlinale Talents, Talents Tokyo, and CFIC. His projects have participated at Cinemart, Locarno Open Doors, Tribeca Film Institute Network, HAF, and APM. His most recent projects are Holy Craft, awarded Docs in Progress Award at Cannes Docs, and his project, Some Nights I Feel Like Walking, won the CIFIC Prize, and selected for Cannes Cinefondacion's Atelier. Let's all welcome Alemberg Ang.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I would like to introduce the two speakers who will be joining me for this session. Cynthia Chong currently serves as the Deputy Director at the Singapore Film Commission, part of the Infocomm Media Development Authority, where she oversees media industry development programs in nurturing, supporting, and promoting successive generations of homegrown talent in creating quality, compelling content, as well as showcasing their works to audiences in Singapore and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Cynthia Chong.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here speaking to you at the conference.
Our next speaker, after completing a master's degree in cinema, documentary, and media in France, Agatha Vinson worked for a few years in production companies based in Paris. She then joined the Marché du Film at the Festival de Cannes for 2 editions, working at the marketing and sales department with all exhibitors of the Marché and Village International. After 4 years at the Paris Region Film Commission, where she organized events and programs, she moved to Manila and now supports the Film Development Council of the Philippines as a technical consultant on incentives, programs, and marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Agatha Vinson.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, so I guess to start off today's session, we would want to hear a little bit more about the Southeast Asian Co-Production Grant from the Singapore Film Commission. So Ms. Cynthia, perhaps you can enlighten us a little bit about the program.
Yeah, sure. Let's put on the deck. So to start off, for those who are not familiar with the Singapore Film Commission, our mandate is to nurture, support, and to promote Singapore talent, the production of films, and the local film industry. Being part of the Infocomm Media Development Authority of Singapore, our ambit has also broadened along with changes in the media landscape. Next slide. We have in recent years a handful of films which have resonated with audiences beyond Singapore. So if you look deeper behind these films and how they are financed, you would notice a common thread. For most of them, they have received funding from Europe. Increasingly, some films have also started to receive funding from parts of Asia, in Hong Kong, in South Korea, and also in Thailand. Next slide. This sparked off the idea for the Singapore Film Commission to take the lead and to advocate a strategy termed Made with Singapore. We want to build a strong pool of local producers, showrunners who are able to assemble the best-in-class talent across the region and to create quality Asian stories. This was how the Southeast Asia Co-Production Grant was birthed. And we are also the first government agency in this part of the world to back such a funding as well. So moving on to the next slide. We launched the grant last year, and a total of about 8 projects were awarded with the grant for projects from Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam. So the grant was up to 250,000 Singapore dollars and about US dollars 180,000. So next slide. So the Southeast Asian Co-Production Grant encourages talent in Singapore and the Southeast Asian region to jointly produce quality stories for the world, where each project must be a collaboration between producers of Singapore and another Southeast Asian country. The grant will be applied by the Singapore Applicant company. Both the Singapore and the Southeast Asian producer must have produced film or television content publicly aired within the last 5 years, and the director must also have directed at least 3 short films, or one feature film or one television program for the last 5 years. Next slide. I mentioned about the grant quantum of 250,000 Singapore dollars. So if you look at the diagram on the left, the light blue color denotes the total production budget. So within this budget, there will be an amount of qualifying costs that we term in the green circle, and this refers to expenses directly linked to the project and contribute significantly to the production of the project. Of the total qualifying cost in the green circle, the gray half of the circle as you look, that is the amount that we will also be supporting from non-Singapore qualifying costs. So qualifying cost categories include, we go to the next slide. So include these categories that are fleshed out here: manpower, equipment, comprising hardware, software, intellectual property, professional services, and other expenses. There are also non-qualifying costs that do not fall into the above-mentioned categories. And this includes, for example, catering or ground transport in Singapore. These are some examples of costs that we do not qualify. So moving on to the next slide. The application stage, there are two stages, stage 1 and 2. So for stage 1, there will be call for proposals. So where proposals will be shortlisted for pitching. This is usually an in-person pitching for both the producers and the director, and they will be pitching to a panel. But of course, with the current COVID situation, we can't afford that. So for the last call, we have moved to online, where successful projects that are shortlisted would be invited for an online pitch. So for stage 2, they will be notified if successful to apply for the grant, and they have up to 12 months to apply for such a grant. So maybe at this point, I'd like to play a video that summarizes about the grant and gives you some perspective from producers who have also tapped on the grant. So can we play the video?
I think before the Singapore Film Commission introduced a grant like this, there wasn't anything of this sort in the region. Now we get to tap into the larger Southeast Asian market and not only contribute financially, but also creatively work on filmmakers' visionary works.
We're putting our local talent to work side by side with regional talents. It's an increase of their understanding of filmmaking. It's also an increase of the opportunities that this grant is creating.
The grant enables Singaporean producers to find the best resources in our country and enhance somebody else's project and production value, whereas at the same time develop our own industrial portfolio, our own industrial expertise.
This is such a huge opportunity for collaboration within our community. I never feel like our region, our Southeast Asia, become so tied up together and feel so strong these days. I could feel like in the next few years we could hope for a decent amount of interesting movie coming out from this region. So what is also important is to how to get the film out to the audiences and to the world and to introduce those voices from our region.
The grant really gives us more opportunity and possibility to work together, and I think in 1 or 2 years, I guess you will see the impact it's actually on the international level. Because of a co-production grant, I believe we will see a lot more good films coming out.
The collaboration to reach a certain quality to bring the voices from Southeast Asian. I think that's the most important thing.
When we have this possibility to actually collaborate with talents and technicians and staff from other countries, it opens up a lot more possibilities and to get to learn about different styles of working from people from different countries.
I think there is a well-established pool of producers here that are able to take projects seriously and help them to bring it to the next level.
We're not afraid of telling stories that are honest, that are true, So I think what this grant has brought to the table is that it's going to allow many more films and stories from the region to be shared across the world.
Okay, so going to the last slide. So we've recently closed our call last month, I mentioned just now. So the next available window for the Southeast Asian co-production run will be August next year, and more details will be published in January next year on our website as well. With that, I end my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Cynthia. Now let's hear what the Philippines has to offer in terms of international co-productions. Agatha?
Thank you, Alem, and thank you, Cynthia. So good afternoon, everyone. We're gonna talk today about funding opportunities for Southeast Asian co-production. And in that matter, as of today, the Philippines has a lot to offer through actually different type of support and mechanism. So let's run through those. Next, please. I think that by now you all attended quite several film industry conferences sessions, so you know all about the Fdcp, and more specifically, the Film Philippine is an office under the supervision of the Fdcp, who facilitates the promotion of the Philippines as a highly viable filming destination for international productions. And of course, to do so, we have several tools. Next, please. The first two, I'm going to run over them quite quickly because they are not a topic today, but we have the Film Location Engagement Desk, which is our automatic one-stop shop service office for foreign as well as local production, audiovisual production. Next, please. The other one that we launched actually in January this year is the Film Location Incentive Program, aka FLIP, our 20% cash rebate based on your QPPE, which is, and you're gonna hear a lot more about those, the qualifying Philippine production expenditures. Next, please. And for today, we're gonna focus on the International Co-Production Fund, ICOF, which is already up and running. It was launched at the same time as FLIP, and Asian Co-Production Fund, ICOF, which is our brand new fund to be open by January 2021. Next, please. So let's go through the mechanics, requirements, and timetable of the International Co-Production Fund. So it is a selective fund up to 10 million Filipino pesos, which is approximately 200,000 USD. Next, please. The cycle of application are, and you're going to see that a lot are similar between our 2 and even 3 financial incentives. The application period has 3 cycles per year of 3 months each, from January to March, cycle 1, from May to July, cycle 2, from September to November, cycle 3. At the end of each one, we'll have a committee deliberation. Next, please. So you can see that we're in the middle of September, so we're currently in the middle of cycle 3, the last cycle of the year, and currently receiving application. Who is the applicant? The applicant, same as the Singapore grant, is the local company. In that case, the Filipino co-producer, a business registered in the Philippines, accredited by the Fdcp National Registry, which is our database of film workers, film companies, film festivals, and all that. And of course, this company needs to be in a co-production with a foreign production company. You can find the details of all our National Registry accredited companies on our website, of course, filmphilippine.com. Next, please. So the International Co-Production Fund is open for feature film, more than 90 minutes, from live action, IMAX, documentary, and animation. A super interesting thing is it's open for minority and majority co-production, which means the project can be Filipino and co-producing with a foreigner production company, or a foreigner project co-producing with the Philippines. We will ask for a distribution guarantee for majority Filipino co-production within the Philippines, and for minority one for at least a theatrical release within the country of origin. Finally, something important for all the financial incentive I'm going to talk about today, you can only apply once with one project to either one of those funds. So a same project cannot apply twice to any fund, and the same project cannot apply to several funds. So you have to choose. Next, please. Also, I should add, when we're talking about co-production here, we're not talking about official co-production. Since the Philippines, for now, we do have one co-production treaty with Canada, and we're working on a lot more to come. But as for today, whenever I'm talking about co-production, it's a non-official co-production. We still have a requirement, so you'll need to be spending at least 5 million pesos, which is 98,000 USD, same in QPPE, qualifying Filipino production expenditures. So best case scenario, if ever you have the 10 million, you will need to spend at least half of it, but you might have less. Next, please. It's a two-step application process, and it's going to be exactly the same process for the Film Location Incentive Program or the Asian Co-Production Fund. A provisional application before spending anything or start your work within the Philippines, and a final verification at the end of it. Next, please. So the process is as follows. You submit your provisional application. Of course, you can set a meeting. You will have the contact details of our amazing team. You submit your complete provisional application during one of our 3 cycles. Then within 4 months, since as you see, every cycle is lasting 3 months and then a deliberation. So within 4 months maximum, you will receive your notification. And if you're selected, you will receive the fund amount from 0 up to 10 million pesos. And a 50% down payment of this fund. Then you have 6 months to actually start spending in the Philippines for your production or post-production work in the Philippines, because we're going to see that QPPE are covering from development to post-production. Once you're done with your project, at least the Philippine part of it, you have 3 months after your final expenses in the Philippines to apply and to submit your final verification. And then you'll go again through the same process, go to our audit department, the committee deliberation, and finally receive the remaining 50% of your fund. Next, please. So we're going to evaluate the project on the following: degree to which the project promotes the Philippine culture and territory, of course. Degree to which the work contributes to the Philippine film industry. This is extremely important. The global quality of the project. Yes, we're gonna read the scripts, check the dossier and all of that. The financial strength and stability of the project, also extremely important, even if, as per today, there is no minimum of secured financing in place required. Still, since we're giving a 50% down payment at the provisional application, we will look closely to your financial plan and budget. And of course, the international distribution potential through festival, theatrical release, and platform for international audiences. Next, please. Now let's go through the new one. So the Asian Co-Production Fund will be open in January 2021. So stay tuned. It should be same on the filmphilippine.com website. It's going to be same, a selective fund. This is highly important. This time up to 7,300,000 pesos, which is 150,000 USD. Next, please. Application periods are exactly the same, starting January 2021, of course. Next, please. Eligible applicant will also be the Filipino producer working on a co-production with an Asean production company. So exactly the same. The list of the Filipino production company and are registered. You can find them on the website. Next, please. The format, a feature film as well, live action, IMAX, documentary, animation for any exhibition platform. With same, it can be initiated by the Asian or the Filipino production company. So for minority or majority, it's the same. But here we'll ask for an Asian director, including Filipino. A distribution guarantee as well, and the same rules apply, which is the one project can only apply once and to either one of the 3 funds. Next, please. The requirement is 50% spending in qualifying Filipino production expenditures of the fund. Next, please. A two-step application. Next. And exactly the same timetable here. You apply at the provisional application, you'll receive the provisional notification within 4 months. If you're selected, you're going to receive the fund amount and first 50% down payment. Then you start working or producing within the Philippines. You apply for the final verification, and at the end of it, you'll receive the remaining 50% of the fund. Next, please. Evaluation. It's exactly the same, just more focused on Asian culture and film industry than in the Philippines itself. Next, please. And I keep that for the end because I know that a lot of your question is always regarding the eligible expenses, actually. So it's just to make sure that you're following the presentation until the end. So your expenses in the Philippines will count from development, pre-production, production, and post-production, which is basically paradise. We will start counting your expenses starting the date where we assess you submit a complete provisional application until the date we assess you submit a complete final verification. And that's going to be your window. Of course, all the expenses need to be spent by the applicant producer, which means the Filipino co-producer. And all expenses must have invoices and receipts. And of course, we're going to ask them at the final verification. Next, please. That's it. Next, I'm just going to introduce you quickly to our Film Philippine incentive team. Next, please. So you can email, phone, Facebook, whatever. Those days you have Zoom, you have everything you need. Mil, which is our Film Philippine incentive lead. Christine, maybe some of you already know her because she's really going to be the one to work with you on your application because, believe it or not, it's never complete at the first shot. So Christine DeLeon will be your operation officer, Janelle, our communication officer, and myself as a program consultant. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much for letting us know a little bit about the Singapore and the Philippine international co-production grants. I'll start with a few questions. So the video of the Singapore Film Commission seems to summarize why it's important for the region to collaborate with each other. There are two things that struck me in the video. One is how these grants can help improve the quality of films from the region and how the region can collaborate with each other. Can you talk a little bit more about this? Maybe Cynthia, you can go ahead. You can start the conversation. Cynthia, I think you have muted yourself.
I'm sorry. Okay. Mainly the grant is for producers in Singapore to access. So we want producers from Singapore to be going out there and jointly co-creating projects, like I said, with the best-in-class talent that's needed for any particular project, assemble the most suitable talent, and access the fund as a leverage point to receive IP rights and own the film as well. Yeah, so basically it's a plus on the producer side and for the producers to use it for their advantage to make stronger films and also films that travel, like I mentioned about films that resonate beyond just in the local market, but have an international audience. So that's really the ambition of the grant.
Agatha, do you have anything to add? Do you think this is also applicable to the Fdcp grant?
Yes, actually, I mean, the Fdcp funds were designed to be compatible with other regional incentive. So that's exactly the whole point. And the aim is, of course, to propose, I think, the right funding for the right films. And so that regional stories can actually be funded within the region and are not like compelled to seek for European funds, for example, or go straight for Cinéma du Monde, because sometimes that might not be the best place for your project, actually. So it's amazing that we have those opportunity to be able to build our own story, and those funds are really designed to push innovative and ambitious regional production and stories. Yeah.
There's one thing also that struck me is that I think based on the conversations from the different producers, do you think these grants also help develop the talents in the region? Maybe Agatha, you can start the conversation.
Yes, yes, definitely. First, because I do think that it's going to bring maybe a bit more money for projects that were already on the way, but it will also push other producers to collaborate and come up with their own content. So it will clearly push to more international relation, which means international skills. So that's highly valuable for both our country when we're talking about Singapore or the Philippines, but every other country. That's why actually co-production is such an important tool, because it's really amazing for your local crew, your local artist, your local scriptwriter, your local director.
And Cynthia, do you think this will help also, aside from working with international crew, developing, as Agatha mentioned, the local talents of either Philippines or Singapore, depending on the fund?
Correct. Yeah. Like Agatha mentioned, the grant does give opportunity where you have to use a certain amount of local services. So this crew and services would benefit in working on regional and international projects. And through the experience, they will also be having the opportunity to upskill and have their horizons broaden as well. So it's definitely an increase in opportunity in learning and also for the project to scale further.
When do you think is the best time for a film project to apply? Like, how would they know when it's already time for them to send in their application? Maybe we can start with Cynthia for this.
Okay, I think when is a good time? I think when the script is developed to a certain extent and you do have producers on board and you have plans and quite firm plans on assembling the financing for the film as well. So that is about the right time where you start to apply for grants that make sense to you and to your project and to your collaborators.
Agatha, do you have any?
But in our case, both funds are open for, as I said, expenses from development to post-production, which means you can actually apply with a project that you almost done with shooting and you just have to the post-production ongoing within the Philippines, for example. So it really depends. If it's let's take an example. Let's take an example. If it's a shooting that you're aiming to do within the Philippines, then following the timetable I just showed you, yes, it would be perfect to apply, let's say 6 months before shooting, which means end of development, start of pre-production, basically. Because yes, if it's for shooting, we're gonna look for still a little bit of the financial plan to be secured. So that's important. And you'll have the 4 months to receive your answer. So basically 6 months before is gonna be fine. But you can take those 6 months and push it if it's just for post-production. And then you should just apply basically, 4 to 6 months before starting your post-production, just because be careful. At the date, we're going to count the QPPE, which is the heart of the subject. So yes, it's really depending on your project, but that's important. Never apply too early. If your project is not ready and it's for a shooting in the Philippines and the script is not well developed, that's clearly an issue. And of course, don't apply too late, please. That's another issue, most common actually, because then you might actually run out of time and all your expenses won't be eligible, and that's sad for your project.
So
Yeah,
two
because for
things,
the
no?
Singapore,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, Alan. I just wanted
Go
to
ahead.
add, because in Singapore, we only have one call in August, so you really have to time it well. And it's slightly on a different pace compared to what you have in the Philippines, which is cycle of 3. So it allows more maneuvering and planning.
Yes. So it's very important to take note when these funds open their call and the eligibility of the spend. So take note of that. And also, I think for the Singapore, it has to be before production, right?
Yes. Similarly, if applications are submitted, we only start to qualify after the application is considered complete. So do give yourself a sufficient buffer and lead time to put through the applications as well.
Yes, that's why working on international co-production takes time because you need to wait for these funds to kick in before the qualified expenditures will be accredited to the funds. And one of the things also that we mentioned is about choosing or working with either a Philippine or a Singapore producer. No, do you have any suggestions or tips on how to find the Singapore and Philippine partners, be it as producers or even the local crew that they wish to hire, no, as part of the qualified expenditures? Cynthia, maybe you have any suggestions on this?
I think is to participate in conferences like this nature and really network and get to know people because even when you talk to producers, I think a lot of people have shared about their experience, how they tend to collaborate on projects is really where the projects mean something to them. That is where they will further the conversation. So I think for a lot of producers out there who want to be collaborating, it is really about putting yourself out and get to know the filmmakers and their films, watch their short films, watch their feature films, and network with people. And if you want to know more about Singapore's films, do check on our website. We do have a collateral of films that are produced, and there are also contacts of production companies, filmmakers that you can reach out to directly as well.
About Agatha?
Yes, but so I talked about the national registry. So every applicant company needs to be accredited with the Fdcp national registry. So that's going to be the main tool, of course, to search for any crew member, talent, so on. But also remember, as I mentioned, we have our Flex incentive, the Film Location Engagement Desk, and part of the service that we do provide for our local production is to search and secure your local partner. A line producer, a co-producer, crew, talent, casting, location, all of that is part of the service that we are providing for free. So use this service. It's actually using all our knowledge of our country. So that's the main tool, yes, to secure your partner.
So, basing it on your suggestions, it's important to get to know who the filmmakers are, who the production companies are. You can check both the websites to find out the names, but it's also important to find out what projects and what films these people have done. So you can more or less, the filmmakers can more or less gauge who they would prefer to work with or who have maybe the same aesthetics as them. Okay, now I remember hearing the criterion quality of project in the selection of funds. Is there a preference for, let's say, more art house projects or more festival films over more mainstream or commercial ones? Like, can a mainstream-ish or mainstream film stand a chance in getting funded as opposed to something that's more art house? Agatha, maybe you can begin.
Yeah, no, I'm laughing because that's really a usual question, and I do think it's a little bit like the weather you want to hear. It's like you want me to say exactly what's going to be like exactly your project, but the answer is no. Actually, no preferences. Otherwise, it would be stipulated within the guidelines. It is true that depending on the type of project, we're going to judge it a little bit differently, clearly, but we're going to receive any application as long as the application is complete and matching the requirements. So as for now, there is no percentage. It's also the first year of all our incentives, so I cannot give you like any statistics on who we're granting. But as for now, no, there's clearly, we can for flip, it's going to be any type of project. So everything could work as long as it's good project. Yes, that's important.
Yeah,
How about
that's the
for
same
the
in
Singapore?
Singapore. Yeah, correct. I mean, the truth is, you looked at the grant amount, so that would also speaks about the kind of projects and the scale of the project that will come in for such a grant. So we do not limit in terms of whether is it an art house film, is it a commercial film, or even in terms of genres. So it's pretty open, and we are also into our second year. So it's still very open and broad about the grant.
Okay. Were there any instances that a project application was rejected? Like, are there any common causes or trends from those who have already applied? Maybe we can start with Cynthia.
Okay, I think rejection, I guess there are two levels. When you talk about dossier, so dossier must be complete in the first place when you submit your proposal. So if your dossier is not complete and you did not furnish the especially mandatory documents, then the project will not, the proposal will not go forth to be shortlisted. So once you pass that stage, so shortlisting again is competitive. So that is where a panel is being assembled, and the project basically will look at the business aspects of it, and we also look at the creative merits. So these are the two broad stroke areas that we typically look at projects, and within that particular call, then it will be competed against each other, the strength of the project.
Agatha, anything to add?
Exactly like Cynthia. The main reason is usually an incomplete application or not complying with the guidelines. So once you're okay, those are the actually not even eligible project. For the rest, yes, all funds, all our funds are selective funds. So we do reject application, but same, it's based on the criteria, the eligibility criteria we just talked about. So from quality of the project, the funding, the budget.
There's a question here from our audience. No? May beginners who don't really have a strong portfolio can apply for this grant? Any chances for beginners to work or collaborate along with bigger ASEAN production companies? Maybe Agatha, you can talk about
But
it.
yes, because for example, when we're gonna, if everyone is like brand new, but even this you can apply. So that's the answer. It's definitely yes. Then it's always a teamwork. And of course, we're going to look at the team. So if it's really a first feature film for the director, but working with a very good and not even well known, but that either we know or we know their work, Filipino company, production company, that's perfect. Or if it's the foreign one, that's perfect. So there's always, usually, it's never like all beginners at the same time, or it's a project for your studies. But other than that, it's a teamwork. So no, and if it's an amazing project, we would love to hear from it, even if it's from a beginner director or a beginner production company as well.
Yeah.
How about
think,
Cynthia?
I mean, to what Agatha has mentioned, I think it's really a mix. So if you are asking, can you have all beginners apply for a project, that might not be the most advisable. So you definitely need to pair up with people of different strengths. So there could be more experienced producers co-mentoring or co-producing with a more junior producer, things like that. So that can be worked out as well. So what we recommend you is to really look at the project, look at what is required, and definitely we are open to younger producers being mentored through that collaboration as well.
Okay. One of the comments I received on Facebook was the amount of paperwork that is required when submitting, and as well as when going through the process and liquidating and things like this. No. What can you say, or what can you share about this load of paperwork? Agatha, maybe you can start.
But I will always say the same, and I'm French, so I do know what paperwork is. But we're still talking about governmental money, which means public money. And you should be proud to see that we're not giving public money for nothing. It is absolutely normal to ask for, I know, a lot of paperwork, a lot of receipts and all that, but that's tax money. So it's absolutely standard procedures. And I will add to that something, maybe more specific to the Philippines, you let me know, Cynthia, but it's also important for us to raise our Filipino producers to work with those international standards. Alem knows exactly what I'm talking about because he already prepared dossier application for basically all the funds we know of. So he's an expert. You know the paperwork. It's important for even our local fund to go through those standards and those procedures. And I know it takes time. You're spending a lot of time on it, which means also money in terms of production. But we cannot do it any other way. So as for now, we still have to comply with this paperwork. We might, believe us, it's also a lot of paperwork on our end. So if we can manage to make it easier, we will, believe me. So if at one point we'll find some new amazing technology to scan your brain and have everything about the project within just a blink, we'll do that. In the meantime, so we have to know everything about your project by just reading an Excel sheet, an application form, and all of that. So I know it's complicated, but we need to spend public money on a private project. So it deserves a lot of investigation on our end. That's my main explanation. What do you think, Cynthia?
Yeah, I mean, to add to what Agatha said, I think the paperwork at the start is just the beginning, because when the project rolls well, there are a lot more paperwork as producers to keep track as well, because you need to really be very disciplined and have people who knows how to collect your receipts and place all this for submission and all this. So I think the get going will be more challenging when the project is running, because as a producer, you are responsible for all the submission, and you want to make sure that you do not get disqualified on certain causes and all those as well. So it is important that at the start you have good dossier, completeness of dossier, and when projects are going on, you also have good paperwork to account for the expenses as well. And thereafter, successfully put through your claims, deliver all the deliverables. Deliverables is another long list that you need to keep to, and you close the project in good time. So there's a lot that's expected on producers, especially like Agatha said, you want to take public funding. It's fairly similar across the board for most agencies in many countries.
Okay, so yeah, I remember before when I started working on international co-productions, is that okay? I think producing is mainly doing all these paperwork, like doing all these dossier, the synopsis, the treatment, the director's statement, and whatnot, and then doing all the liquidation and all the paperwork after you make the film. No, so
But
anyway,
Alem, can
yeah.
I just add something? Actually, once as a producer, your kit is ready, it's basically the same thing for every fund. Once your dossier, it's going to be okay, presented a different way, but once you have your budget, your financial plan, and all your synopsis, log line, and it's basically the exact same information in a different order. So I do think that it's your work as a producer to be prepared with this kit, and then, yeah, of course, to apply again and again and again. That's the...
Just to share, I actually have like a Google Doc shared with the director. So we would have, let's say, a log line that's 100 characters, a log line that's 1 sentence, a log line that's 2 sentences, a log line that's 3 sentences, a synopsis that's 1 page, a synopsis that's 100 words, whatever, you know. So because different fonts have different requirements, but generally the same content. So it's a matter of stretching or reducing based on the requirements. So there's a question here from the audience. If all entrants, let's say, are compliant, if like we all follow the dossier, we submit the dossier and all the documents, how do you weigh which one to support? Like, is there a scoreboard that you keep, or is there something that you that weighs more, or you look at more heavily than other requirements? Maybe we can start with Cynthia.
Like I mentioned, the project is being looked at both at the business and the creative aspect. So creative aspect is really the strength of the story and how your script is developed, and what do you say about the film? Where is it going to be distributed? So the business aspects of it, in terms of how you plan to distribute a film, release a film, and then the team that's backing the film as well, the project team, and the financing that you have assembled. So all these aspects do play a part in the panel making its final decision. Like I mentioned, it's extremely competitive. So paperwork, like we say, complete project documentation at submission, that's the baseline. So when you pass the baseline, then that is where you compare about your project in all its aspects.
Okay, how about Agatha? Do you have anything to add?
But yes, we work with an evaluation grid, basically based on the criteria you can find on our guidelines. So it's more detailed version of just our 3 bullet points or 5 bullet points that you have here. Of course, it's going to be different depending, like for Flip and ICOF, those are not the same, targeting the same type of project. So of course, the evaluation grid is completely different and not giving the same weight to the different part of it. So the economic impact will be way much more important for the 20% cash rebate, as well as the cultural one, and the quality of the project a lot more for ICOF, for example.
So this one, since you mentioned all these different funds, right? And I think you discussed this a little bit a while ago, but there's a question here from Gladys Lianes, who's a documentary film producer. She's asking can she apply, let's say, right now for the development fund and then apply again later on for, say, production or post-production for the same project?
Then the answer, yeah, I knew this one was for me. No, the answer is no. As I said, you can only apply once with one project to either one fund. So you can apply for development spending as long as you have at least those 5 million spending, which is not going to be that easy for documentary though. But you can only apply once. Yes.
Okay. And then there's a question here. If let's say a production company, or let's say the parent company is a Singapore entity and it owns a 100% of a Philippine subsidiary, would this already qualify for the funding?
But that's not enough. That's not a co-production then.
Yes. So maybe we can enlighten them a little bit what is meant by a co-production or an international co-production. Agatha, maybe you can start.
Yes. So for both the funds I just described today, we're talking about co-production. So when we're talking about co-production, you have either the official, when we're talking usually in Europe, it's official co-production, which they are using a co-production treaty between two countries that will actually kind of give a double nationality to the project, which will allow your project to actually avail on the public funding of each of those countries. And that's exactly why a lot of people are actually looking to co-produce with French production company, because we do have a lot of public funding in France. So if you work through an official co-production treaty with a French co-producer, you will avail of also the local funding. Not all, but you still can try, let's say, at least. So that's the official co-production. Depending on the country, I don't know, Cynthia, you'll tell me about Singapore. So as I said, for now, we only have one co-production treaty. So we're mainly talking about a non-official co-production, which means just a business agreement, business to business, with a co-production contract. The only difference between, for example, a line producer and a co-producer, which is extremely important in our case, because we do have those two separate funds, one for co-production, the other for cash rebate, working with the line producer. The line producer is a service company. So they will have no share, they probably put no private money within the project, no copyright, nothing. They're just mandate by the foreign production to take care of part of the shooting or post-production within the country. And once it's done, they're going to send their global invoice, and that's it. And the line producer is out. The co-producer is working usually a little bit before that. They can even work as soon as development. Usually you're going to look for a co-producer just because part of your shooting is happening in a country, just because of your story. That's the first thing to actually look for a co-producer, because you know you're going to have to shoot there. So you have to find a strong partner. But then a co-producer will be a co-producer, which means probably co-owner of the film, will put his own private money in the project as well. So it's really, really, really different type of project and type of partnership. How about you, Cynthia? What about the official co-production?
Yeah, okay, because what I've mostly talked is the unofficial organic co-production between countries. So we do have official co-productions treaty with various countries as well, but unfortunately not with the Philippines or with countries in Southeast Asia. So hence, official treaties don't really apply if you talk about collaborations just among Southeast Asian countries at the moment. Yeah. So the question about whether if an entity is fully related, then I think that is not the spirit of the co-production fund that we're talking about, because the fund really wants to inspire producers from Singapore and Southeast Asia to co-collaborate and co-create. So that's the spirit of the fund. Because if you are already related, then go forth and work on the projects. Yeah, tapping on other sources of financing as well. Yeah, that would be my answer to that question.
So the next question is from Christine Carlos. Where can we get samples of the paperwork where we can base the application? Are there like templates available or samples that they can check out? Cynthia, do you have something like this in the?
We have a checklist. Yeah, we do have. If you go to our website, you check on our guidelines. We do have some guiding instructions on what is required on each document, and it's pretty precise. So do check out that, and you could actually baseline what is required. And there's also a checklist for you to go through all the documents to make sure that it is complete before submission.
How about Cynthia? Agatha, rather.
But yes, basically the same. I strongly encourage you, so check the website, filmphilippine.com, and you can go on the incentives tab. First, read, please, carefully the guidelines. Those documents are meant for you. Read them before applying. you'll know everything you'll have to do from early beginning until the end. So you won't be surprised when at the end we'll ask you for a lot more things, because believe me, everything really is there. Then you'll find a lot of answers in the guidelines. Then, of course, you can download all the application forms within the website as well. On our case, the application form is an Excel sheet. So, because those are information that we need to be able to manipulate, so you comply with our R shape. And of course, additional documents that we're asking, like, okay, filmography, dossier, or other stuff that can be formatted your own way. And then you have to submit all of this together, your Excel sheet application and all of your additional requirements. But you'll find everything on the website, though.
How about do you by any chance have, let's say, maybe samples or things that they can check out to see how, let's say, what does a director statement look like, or what's a financial plan look like?
No, sorry. In our case, no template. But you do have internet and Google.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, and
we don't have Canva as well.
Yeah, I guess as a tip is I would have two tips for filmmakers who are looking for such templates. One is attend as many of the international producing workshops as you can. Because a lot of the things I learned in making dossiers, I learned it from attending international producing workshops. Even some like offered by the Fdcp. Like I remember the first one was given by Raymond Pathanavirangun, who eventually became my mentor in CFIC. Was he really told us what international co-producing was, and it was an Fdcp workshop. So attend these producing workshops, and also befriend producers who have submitted, and maybe they'll share their sample dossier with you. If you're nice to me, I might.
Actually, I'm making jokes, but it's thank you for this feedback. It's probably a good idea. I know that for both the Singapore and our fund, they're still quite new. But why not? Yeah, if we see that after a year, a lot of producers are actually struggling, or just because of the application form and because it's quite thorough, we eliminate, just because of the paperwork, a lot of producer. It means like, okay, we're not aiming the right target here. So that's honestly duly noted. We never know if, by next year, if we see that only big production companies are applying, it means like our process is clearly, I know, not as easy as you producer would like it to be, but I'm sure we can find ways to work with you on that. So yeah, noted for the templates.
I actually appreciated the application forms of Cinemart and Berlinale Talents because they have questions. So they would say director's statement, and then they would have questions underneath it. Which so those who don't know what the director statement are, more or less answering those questions will come up with what is asked. Okay. I have a question. Given these times, how are your funds, how you're been adjusted to meet the challenges brought about by COVID? Maybe we can start with Cynthia on this.
In terms of the challenges brought by COVID, I guess the main thing right now is that there are productions that are delayed. So we tend to be more open towards such delays right now, to look at ways where the project can still be completed within a certain time. But in terms of funding, it's still roughly the same. There aren't any other increase in terms of the amount, but in terms of the components, then that's up to the producers to put in if they have additional costs that's required for the project and things like that.
How about for the Philippines? I think I saw you adjusted a little bit.
Yes, but so it was hard because it was the first year of our two brand new funds, so that was. But still, I mean, actually, they remain like up and running the whole way. We did receive, even for Cycle 2, an animation project. So that's just telling us that animation was clearly less impacted by all this, still able to travel from France to Philippines. But they are both, yes, still up and running. And also, of course, we changed the qualifying Filipino production expenditures to open them to development and pre-production. It was also thinking like if producer cannot shoot, and since all the projects are going to be delayed, at least they can still apply for the next project and start spending, even if it's just for development, hoping like even just local like location scouting or everything for development could work. And I think we're gonna keep them like that, actually.
Can film crew travel to maybe to Singapore or to the Philippines at this time?
They can certainly travel, but they would have to do the 7 or the 14-day stay home notice. So they will be quarantined for a period before they can start projects. So I guess this is a cost that companies and projects have to be mindful if they are still traveling.
How about in the Philippines?
Well, as you know, Alem, so our frontier are still closed for foreigners. However, you can ask for always flex, and we do provide exemption. We can work with on your project and see if we can manage to find an exemption, if possible. We're now in a lower stage of quarantine. We hope that things are going to move fast, but if you go straight to the frontier, that will not work. And of course, even if you manage to pass that way, you have to follow up all our health and safety guidelines, just the quarantine, and then also all our guidelines to actually shoot. So no, for now, you clearly have to keep in touch with the team of the Film Philippine. And with your project, and we'll see if we can, not only if we can, but if it's worth it, because it's not only a question like, can you enter the Philippines, then what can you do there? So we're more working on distance program, on how to work on location scouting. Can we do casting via online? All those ideas are stuff that the film location engagement desk are working on to facilitate all those stages for foreign production, at least.
So there's a question here: is that are your your funds? They are grants, so they're not equity investment that need to be recouped, and therefore, what are your stakes as the Singapore Film Commission and the Film Development Council of the Philippines on the final output or on the final product of the film? Maybe we can start with Cynthia.
Okay, the Southeast Asia Co-Production Grant is certainly a grant. So it is given to the SG applicant company. So the SG applicant company can use it as their investment to own percentages to the film.
Do they have a stake on it after? Does the Singapore Film Commission or only the Singapore producer?
Yeah, so the producer will own the film unless the producer sells off his rights for certain reasons. But as the government agency, we don't own the film.
How about for the Philippines?
Exactly the same. Exactly the same. So no, it's within the title, it's a fund, not equity investment. So it's not recoupable. It is yours. And we're not stakeholders of the project whatsoever. The only thing we might do is if at the final verification, your project is actually not complying at all with the provisional application, is withdraw the money. That's worst case scenario. But then we have nothing to do or any ownership with your project.
is there a different, what is the main difference between the International Co-Production Fund and the ASEAN Co-Production Fund from the FDCP?
Oh, then you just have, one is more restrictive, it's more regional. The director as well from the region, it's just basically the same, because it's the same application period, it's the same timeline. So it's just the maximum fund is a little bit lower for Asian, at least for now. We'll see by next year, and it's just more regionally focused. So yeah, apart from also the director that needs to be Asian, it's pretty similar. But for us, it's important that all our incentives are a little bit formatted the same way, so that's same as we just talked earlier. Once you went through the process once, it's going to be a lot easier for your next project, because you know how it's working with FDCP, and even if it's another fund, it's going to be shaped the same way. But those are the two main differences. It's just, yeah, a smaller version.
Okay, I think that wraps up our discussion for today. Perhaps you have any last words to our audience before we close the session. Maybe we can start off with Cynthia.
No, I mean, my last words is thank you for your time and your attention, for listening to us and getting to know the grant. So I hope that you have learned something and you have more useful information. So if you do need to contact us, write to us at info@imda.gov.ng. And if not, look out for our call details that will be open and published next year, January, on our website. Thank you.
And Agatha?
Well, but thank you also, everyone. I hope, not only you did learn, but you understood and took note of all those process. Even if it's a lot in 1 hour, you know that you can find both our fund, every information within the website, and we do an email away at home, but still. So please get in touch with us. We prefer to receive questions before than having problem after. And we're really here as an office to assist you with your application. We're not going to fill it out for you, though, but we're working together on that. So we're really here to help you. So please contact the Film Philippine office and check the filmphilippine.com website. And thank you, everyone.
Okay, everyone, I hope you are all a little bit more enlightened about international co-productions, especially with Singapore and the Philippines. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to either agencies, and I'm sure they would jump on a call with you, to answer any questions should there's a need for it. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope you still listen to the other talks. I think there's still a few more left. And this is a great way to learn more about international co-productions. Thank you, everyone, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much to Cynthia, Agatha, and of course, Alem for moderating this very informative session on funding programs that can be tapped by our filmmakers in the ASEAN region. It is amazing that even in these challenging times, our commissions are hard at work in supporting the collaboration and creation of content in our region. To our attendees, should you have more questions, please share them to us so we can provide them to our speakers after this session. As always, please let us know your thoughts by clicking on the survey link in our chat box. We still have one more session to go for FIC, and we hope to see you there. Again, this is Film Industry Conference Online 2020. Thank you and take care.
Thank you very much to our panelists and moderator for a very engaging discussion. Thank you to our dear audience as well for tuning in. We hope to see you in our next sessions. For more details on FIC, please check social media accounts on Facebook, www.facebook.com/filmindustryconferenceph, Twitter @FICPH1, and Instagram @FilmIndustryConferencePH. Check out the full lineup of public sessions and master classes for this year's Film Industry Conference. Visit our website at fdcp.ph/FIC.